Sign it, intern, she said, her diamond-encrusted watch catching the morning light as she pushed the resignation letter toward me. Camille, the executive vice president and wife of the CEO, looked down at me with a smile that made my insides twist. This can either be simple or complicated. Your choice. I stared at the pristine paper, my reflection distorted in the glass tabletop beneath it. The boardroom felt cavernous around me, 30 floors up with floor-to-ceiling windows displaying the city like a treasure they owned. I'd been escorted here moments ago, no explanation given. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? My direct supervisor, Talia, circled behind me, her voice low and amused. An intern accessing financial projections at midnight? Please, I was finishing the report you assigned. I said, my voice smaller than I intended. Camille laughed, the sound sharp and cutting. The CEO is my husband. You're leaving this company with nothing, intern. She leaned forward, her expensive perfume clouding around me. We built this empire. People like you are replaceable parts. Talia placed both hands on the back of my chair, leaning down to my ear. She's too intimidated to even speak. Look at her. I remained still, feeling the weight of the moment settle around me. 6 months of careful work, of calculated moves and meticulously planned steps, all jeopardized because I'd been spotted in the finance department after hours. If you sign now, we won't press charges for attempted corporate espionage, Camille said, sliding a gold pen toward me. Consider it generosity. Corporate espionage? The words came out breathless. Don't play innocent. Talia moved to stand beside Camille, unified in their attack. We have security footage. You accessing restricted servers, downloading proprietary information. My heart hammered against my ribs. They were bluffing. They had to be. I'd been careful. But the confidence in their postures made doubt creep in. Sign it, now. Camille pushed the paper closer. My throat tightened as I looked between them. I thought of my grandmother's face the day she learned her pension had vanished. I remembered the funeral I could barely afford because the medical bills had drained what little savings she had left. All because of the man whose name graced the building, and the woman now demanding my surrender. May I have some water first? I asked, needing precious seconds to think. Talia sighed dramatically, but gestured to the pitcher on the credenza. Get it yourself. As I stood on shaky legs, Camille's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then smiled coldly. The security team is ready to escort you out once you sign. I poured water with trembling hands, watching their reflections in the window. They were whispering, Talia nodding eagerly at whatever Camille was saying. Did you need a definition for resign? Talia called out. It means you quit. You walk away. You get nothing. I returned to my seat, taking a small sip. Before I sign, can I ask one question? Make it quick, Camille said, checking her watch. The board meeting tomorrow? Will you announce the overseas factory closure then? Or wait until after the quarterly report? Their expressions shifted instantly. Talia's mouth dropped open slightly, while Camille's eyes narrowed to dangerous slits. How do you know about that? Camille hissed. Before I could respond, the boardroom door opened. A security guard stepped in, followed by a woman in an impeccable suit I recognized immediately. Ms. Navarro, the guard said. There appears to be some confusion about your status here. Camille stood abruptly. There's no confusion. She's being terminated for cause. The newcomer, Isabel, my actual contact, smiled politely. I believe there is confusion. Ms. Navarro isn't who you think she is. The air in the room changed, charged with a new tension. Camille's perfectly manicured hand moved to her phone. Don't, I said, my voice finding its strength. You might want to hear this first. Talia moved closer to Camille, uncertain now. What's happening? I picked up the pen, but instead of signing, I flipped the resignation letter over and wrote a single sentence on the back. I slid it toward them. Camille read it, her face draining of color. This is impossible. Check your husband's calendar for tomorrow morning, I said quietly. 9 a.m., meeting with the new majority shareholders. You're lying, she whispered, but her hand was already moving to her phone again, this time dialing frantically. I stood, gathering my things as the security guard watched, confused by the shifting power dynamics. This isn't over, Talia warned, but uncertainty had replaced her earlier confidence. As I walked toward the door with Isabel, I paused. You're right. It's just beginning. Behind us, we heard Camille's desperate voice. Aiden? Call me back immediately. Something's happening with the company. The elevator doors closed on her panic, and only then did I let out the breath I'd been holding for 6 months. But my momentary triumph evaporated with the message that lit up Isabel's phone. Transfer blocked. Injunction filed. Emergency meeting required. We have a problem, she murmured. And my stomach dropped as the elevator descended, carrying us away from a victory that suddenly felt very far from certain. Hey, if you're enjoying this story so far, I'd love your support. Hit that like button and subscribe to join me on this journey. Your comments mean everything. They help me know what stories resonate with you. Now, let's get back to finding out who our mysterious intern really is. My name is Ava Navarro, and 6 months ago, I walked into the gleaming headquarters of Apex Industries with a carefully constructed resume that made me look perfectly average. Average grades from an average university, average references, average ambition. The perfect candidate for their notoriously demanding internship program. One they use to extract maximum work for minimum pay, discarding bright-eyed hopefuls after squeezing every drop of usefulness from them. What my resume didn't show. I graduated top of my class in finance. I spoke 3 languages fluently, and I had spent the past 2 years meticulously planning how to infiltrate this company. The transfer delay is temporary, Isabel reassured me as we hurried through the plaza outside the building. Rain had started to fall, mirroring my darkening mood. Aiden Blackwood's lawyers filed an emergency injunction claiming stock manipulation. It's nonsense, but it buys them time. How much time? I asked, pulling my jacket tighter. 24 hours at most. The judge will throw it out, but they'll use those hours to figure out who I am. I finished. And why I'm really here. Isabel nodded grimly. The coalition is meeting in 30 minutes. We need to regroup. The coalition. A group of former Apex employees who had pooled their life savings to buy company shares after Aiden Blackwood had systematically destroyed their lives. People like my grandmother, Esther Navarro, who had worked at Apex's manufacturing plant for 37 years before Blackwood acquired it, stripped its assets, and terminated the pension fund. She died waiting for medical treatments that pension would have covered. While Blackwood's wife Camille posted photos of their yacht on social media. The coalition's plan was simple but ambitious: gain controlling interest in the company and restore what had been stolen. When they discovered they needed someone on the inside, I volunteered. My finance background would help identify where the money had gone. My youth would make me invisible. Just another disposable intern. How did they catch you? Isabel asked as we ducked into a small coffee shop 3 blocks away. I don't know. I wiped rain from my face. I was careful. I only accessed the financial systems during authorized hours, using Talia's credentials when she left herself logged in. Which happens surprisingly often, Isabel noted, because she's careless. She spends more time flattering Camille than doing actual work. I paused, thinking. Yesterday was different. I found projections for the factory closure. Hundreds more people losing their jobs. I was photographing the documents when the motion sensor lights came on. Someone else was there? I didn't see anyone. I left immediately. The coffee shop door opened, bringing in a gust of wet air and 2 familiar faces. Bernard, who had been the plant manager before Blackwood fired him after 40 years of service, and Nina, whose accounting expertise had been invaluable to our cause. We have trouble, Bernard said without preamble, his weathered face grave. Blackwood's calling in favors with the banking commission. The stock purchase may be frozen indefinitely. My heart sank. Can he do that? He shouldn't be able to, Nina replied. But he's donated millions to the right campaigns. Isabel tapped her fingers on the table. We've come too far to lose now. We haven't lost yet, I said, an idea forming. They think they caught me stealing information. They don't know what information I actually have. Bernard leaned forward. What exactly did you find? Evidence of accounting fraud. Camille has been funneling company funds through a network of shell companies. Millions diverted to personal accounts. I pulled out my phone, opening an encrypted app. I have the transaction records, authorization codes that trace back to her personal devices. Nina's eyes widened as she looked at my screen. This is the smoking gun we needed. But we can't use it if we don't control the company, Isabel pointed out. We don't need to control the company to expose fraud, I countered. We just need to make Blackwood believe we're about to expose it. Bernard's expression shifted from despair to cautious hope. Blackmail? Leverage, I corrected. The threat of exposure could force him to withdraw the injunction. It's risky, Nina warned. If he calls our bluff? It's not a bluff, I said firmly. The evidence is real. The fraud is real. People lost their livelihoods, their retirement, their health. Some, like my grandmother, lost their lives because of what they did. Silence fell over our table as the weight of my words sank in. The coffee shop bustled around us, people going about their normal days, unaware of the battle being waged for justice. We need a backup plan, Isabel finally said. If the leverage fails, we need another way in. I might have one, I admitted. But it's even riskier, and I'd have to go back in there tomorrow. After they fired you? Bernard asked incredulously. They think they fired me. They never actually got my signature. Nina shook her head. They'll have security looking for you. Probably, I agreed. But they also don't know what I look like when I'm not playing the role of the meek intern. Isabel studied me thoughtfully. What exactly are you proposing? I leaned in, keeping my voice low. Tomorrow is the company's quarterly town hall. All employees, all executives, in the main auditorium. If the injunction hasn't been lifted by then, I go in during the meeting. To do what? Bernard asked. To access Aidan Blackwood's private server from his office while everyone's occupied. He keeps his most damaging secrets there, including, I suspect, the real reason the pension fund disappeared. How would you even get in? Nina pressed. His office requires biometric access. I smiled thinly. Talia has access. She handles his calendar, his calls, his after-hours arrangements. And Talia has a very predictable habit of leaving her coffee unattended while she reapplies her makeup every morning at 9:15. Isabel's eyes narrowed. You've been planning this. As a contingency. I never thought we'd need it. Bernard rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Even if you get in, how long would you need? 10 minutes, 15 at most. That's cutting it close, Nina warned. The town hall typically runs 45 minutes, but Blackwood always speaks last. Then I'll need to create a distraction, I said. Something to keep him talking longer. Isabel pulled out her tablet, typing rapidly. I can help with that. Anonymous questions submitted during the meeting. We can plant several that will force him to address issues he'd rather avoid. It could work, Bernard conceded. But Ava, if you're caught, I know the risks. I thought of my grandmother's face the last time I saw her, thin and worn but still determined. Some things are worth the risk. As the rain intensified outside, we finalized our plan. 2 tracks moving simultaneously. Isabel would use our evidence to pressure Blackwood to withdraw the injunction, while I prepared to infiltrate his office if that failed. What none of us realized was that Camille Blackwood had already set her own countermeasures in motion. While we strategized in that coffee shop, she was reviewing security footage, comparing the meek intern she knew with the confident woman who had walked out of her boardroom. And she was beginning to understand that she had severely underestimated her opponent. The next morning dawned with news that the injunction remained in place. Blackwood's legal team had successfully argued for more time to review the stock purchases. Our leverage attempt had failed. He simply didn't believe we would risk exposing the fraud without controlling the company first. It's your call, Isabel said when I met her a block from Apex headquarters. We can wait for the legal process, or we can try your way. I checked my watch. 8:30 a.m. The town hall starts at 9, I need to be in position by then. She nodded, handing me a small earpiece. We'll be monitoring from the security feed Nina hacked. Bernard is standing by with a car if things go wrong. I took a deep breath, adjusting my outfit, a sharp contrast to the deliberately forgettable clothes I'd worn as an intern. If I don't make contact by 9:45, we extract you, Isabel finished. No matter what, with a final nod, I walked toward the building, heart pounding but steps steady. The security badge I duplicated months ago still worked, a oversight in their system that no one had bothered to fix. Why would they? Interns weren't security threats. Until now. The lobby bustled with employees heading to the town hall. I kept my head down, letting my newly styled hair and tailored clothes serve as disguise enough. No one looked twice at me. I'd spent months perfecting the art of being forgettable as an intern. Now I was counting on that same invisibility working in reverse. I took the elevator to the executive floor, my pulse quickening as the numbers climbed. The earpiece crackled softly. Nina here. Town hall starting now. Blackwood is introducing the quarterly results. I exited on the 29th floor, 2 below my target. Security would be lighter here, and I knew the service stairwell would take me where I needed to go. As expected, this floor was nearly deserted. And explained. Most support staff would be at the mandatory town hall. Talia's still at her desk, Nina murmured in my ear, waiting for something. I paused. This wasn't part of the pattern. Talia never missed an opportunity to be seen supporting the executives. Is Camille in the auditorium? I whispered. A moment of silence, then. Negative. Can't locate her on any feed. My instincts flared in warning. Something had changed. They were expecting me. I ducked into an empty conference room, mind racing. I need a new approach. Abort? Isabel's voice was tense. No. I moved to the window, studying the building's reflection in the glass tower opposite. Just a different route. During my months as an intern, I'd mapped every corner of this building, including the private elevator that connected Blackwood's office directly to the executive garage. It required a special key card, one that only 3 people possessed. Aiden Blackwood, Camille, and the head of security. Nina, can you access the garage security feed? After a moment, got it. What am I looking for? Blackwood's car? Is his driver waiting? Yes, black sedan in the reserved space. And the private elevator? A pause. Status shows it's locked at the garage level, which meant the keycard was likely with the driver, who always kept Blackwood's backup access. A contingency I'd noted months ago but hoped not to use. I'm going to the garage, I decided. That's too exposed, Isabel warned. It's also the last place they'd expect me. I took the main elevator down, joining 2 maintenance workers who barely acknowledged me. In their eyes, I was just another young professional in a building full of them. The garage was dimly lit and smelled of concrete and exhaust. I spotted the black sedan immediately, its driver leaning against the hood, scrolling through his phone. The private elevator was 20 yards away, its access panel glowing red. What's your play? Nina asked. I didn't answer, instead walking directly toward the driver with purposeful steps. Excuse me, I called, my voice confident and slightly annoyed. Mr. Blackwood sent me to retrieve a file from his office. There's an issue with the presentation. The driver looked up, frowning. Who are you? Emily from Media Relations, I said without hesitation. The graphics in his presentation are wrong. He needs the backup file from his desktop. The driver hesitated. He didn't mention. He's in the middle of the town hall. I cut in, letting impatience color my tone. Do you want to interrupt him? Or should I tell him you refuse to help when the Southeast Asia projections displayed incorrectly in front of the entire company? His expression shifted from suspicion to concern. Like most people who worked for Blackwood, he feared the CEO's notorious temper. I'm not supposed to let anyone use his elevator. I checked my watch. Fine. I'll go back up and tell him. Wait. He reached into his pocket, producing the key card. 5 minutes. In and out. Thank you. I took the card, maintaining my brisk demeanor. I'll be quick. As soon as the elevator doors closed behind me, I whispered, I'm in. Heading up now. Be careful, Isabel cautioned. Something still feels wrong. The private elevator opened directly into Blackwood's office suite, a sprawling space with views across the city. I moved quickly to his desk, unlocking his computer with the password I'd watched Talia enter countless times when she thought no one was looking. How's the town hall? I asked quietly, navigating through folders. Blackwood's discussing the new marketing strategy, Nina reported. Still no sign of Camille or Talia. That uneasiness returned, stronger now. Where were they? I found what I was looking for. A hidden directory containing records of transactions between Apex and a series of offshore entities. I inserted the flash drive I'd brought and began copying files. 2 minutes, I murmured, watching the progress bar crawl forward. Wait! Nina's voice sharpened. I've got movement. Security team mobilizing from the lobby. I've got movement. My heart rate spiked. Toward the executive floor? Affirmative. 4 guards, moving fast. The file transfer reached 60%. Too slow. Abort, Isabel commanded. Get out now. Not yet. I needed these files. They were the key to everything. How long do I have? Maybe 2 minutes before they reach you. I glanced at the private elevator. My escape route, then froze. The access light had changed from green to red. Someone had remotely disabled it. The elevator's locked down, I reported, forcing calm into my voice as the file transfer reached 75%. Emergency stairs, Nina directed. East corner. They'll have those covered. I scanned the room, looking for options. 85% complete. Where's Bernard with the car? North entrance, but you'll never make it through the lobby now. The file transfer completed. I pulled the drive free and shut down the computer, erasing all evidence of my access. But I was trapped, 30 floors up with security closing in. That's when I saw it. The private washroom connected to Blackwood's office. Not an escape route, but perhaps a hiding place. I slipped inside just as I heard the main office doors burst open. Clear, a male voice called out. No one here. Check everything, came a second voice, a woman's. Camille. I pressed myself against the wall beside the washroom door, barely breathing. The flash drive felt hot in my palm. Incriminating evidence I couldn't risk losing. I slipped it into my mouth, tucking it in my cheek like a pill I wasn't ready to swallow. The computer's been accessed recently, a man reported. Still warm. Find her, Camille ordered, her voice tight with anger. She's here somewhere. Footsteps approached the washroom. I looked around desperately, nowhere to hide in the minimalist space. Just a toilet, sink, and shower stall with clear glass doors. The handle turned. I made a split-second decision and stepped into the shower, turning the water on full blast. As the door opened, I was standing fully clothed under the spray. My back to the room, pretending to wash my hair. I turned with practiced surprise, shrieking appropriately. What the hell? A security guard stood frozen in the doorway, clearly not expecting to find someone showering in the CEO's private bathroom. Who are you? He demanded, recovering quickly. Who am I? Who are you? I reached for a towel, maintaining the indignation of someone whose privacy had been violated. Does Mr. Blackwood know you're barging in on his guests? Confusion crossed the guard's face. Behind him, Camille appeared, her expression shifting from triumph to uncertainty. You're trespassing, she stated, though with less conviction. I wrapped the towel around my shoulders, water dripping dramatically onto the marble floor. I don't think Aiden would agree. I emphasized his first name, implying intimacy. The calculated risk paid off. Doubt flickered in Camille's eyes, the exact reaction I'd hoped for. After all, her husband's affairs were an open secret among the executive staff. Call Mr. Blackwood, I suggested coolly. I'm sure he'll be delighted to explain why I have access to his private shower. Camille's face hardened. Check her ID. My purse is by the desk, I said, hoping they wouldn't call my bluff. Though I'm not sure Aiden would appreciate this interruption. The security guard looked to Camille for direction, clearly uncomfortable. Before she could respond, a new voice joined the standoff. What's happening here? Aiden Blackwood himself stood in the office doorway, his tall frame rigid with tension. His eyes moved from his wife to me, narrowing slightly. This woman was found using your computer, Camille said. And now your shower. Blackwood studied me for a long moment. I held his gaze, projecting confidence I didn't feel. The flash drive pressed against my cheek. A dangerous secret. Everyone out, he finally said. Except you. He pointed at me. Aiden, Camille began. Now Camille. She left reluctantly, taking the security team with her. As the door closed, Blackwood walked to his desk and sat down, gesturing for me to take the chair opposite. You have 60 seconds to explain who you really are, he said quietly. And it better be convincing. Water pooled around my feet as I sat, mind racing through possible stories. The truth was not an option. Neither was continuing the mistress charade. He'd see through that immediately. My name is Ava Navarro, I began. Deciding a partial truth was my only play. I worked as an intern in your financial department. Recognition flickered in his eyes. The one Camille fired yesterday. Yes, that doesn't explain what you're doing in my private bathroom. I leaned forward. I came back because something isn't right with the quarterly numbers, Mr. Blackwood. The projections for the overseas factory closure don't match the financial models. His expression remained impassive. So you broke into my office to help me catch a mistake? To protect you? I corrected. Someone is manipulating the financial reports. I noticed discrepancies weeks ago, but couldn't get anyone to listen. When I was fired, I knew I had to bring it directly to you. And the shower? Panic, I admitted. When security arrived, I didn't think they'd believe why I was really here. Blackwood leaned back, studying me with calculating eyes. You expect me to believe you risked criminal charges to warn me about a spreadsheet error? Not an error, I pressed. Deliberate manipulation. Someone close to you is siphoning company funds, Mr. Blackwood. The evidence is in the Southeast Asia Division reports. I was playing a dangerous game, pointing him toward the very fraud his wife had committed. But I needed to keep him talking, keep him uncertain. That's a serious accusation, he said carefully. That's why I'm here. I couldn't just walk away. He stood abruptly, walking to the window. You graduated from Wharton, not the state school on your resume. You speak Mandarin and worked briefly at a consulting firm in Hong Kong. You're not the person my wife hired. My blood froze. He'd investigated me. The question, he continued, turning back to face me, is why a qualified finance professional would take an unpaid internship and hide her credentials. His eyes hardened. Unless she had another agenda entirely. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Security will escort you out, he said, reaching for his phone. And this time, Ms. Navarro, don't come back. Before you do that, I said quickly, you should check who purchased controlling interest in your company yesterday. His hand paused. The injunction blocked that transaction. Temporarily, I stood, dropping the pretense. By this time tomorrow, Apex will have new leadership. I'm offering you a chance to cooperate now, before things get unpleasant. Blackwood's laugh was cold. You're bluffing. The worker coalition doesn't have the resources to fight me in court. You'd be surprised what people can accomplish when they've lost everything, I replied. Including what they know about the pension fund that mysteriously disappeared under your management. Something shifted in his expression, the faintest flicker of unease. I have a board meeting in 10 minutes, he said. We'll continue this discussion after. I'll be waiting. I had no intention of being anywhere near this building when he returned. He called for security, his voice steady but his eyes troubled. As the guards led me toward the elevator, M-lined, the main one this time, I felt his gaze following me. In my ear, Isabel whispered, Bernard is at the south entrance. Security is lighter there. I nodded slightly, knowing she could see me through the cameras. The flash drive remained hidden in my cheek, the digital evidence that would bring down an empire. But as the elevator descended, a new message came through my earpiece. Aiden's making calls. Multiple calls. Something's happening. The doors opened on the lobby, and I saw her immediately. Talia, standing by the security desk, pointing directly at me. That's her, she called out. That's the corporate spy. Guards moved toward me from all directions. I touched my ear discreetly. South entrance compromised, I murmured. Need a new extraction point. South entrance compromise. Need a new extraction point. No response. The earpiece had gone dead. I was on my own. The security guards closed in as I stood trapped in the lobby, the flash drive still hidden in my cheek. Talia's triumphant smile told me everything. They had been waiting, planning this moment. Hold her until the police arrive, she instructed the guards. Mr. Blackwood wants her arrested for corporate espionage. My mind raced through options, each worse than the last. Running would only confirm my guilt. Fighting was impossible against 6 trained guards. My team was cut off. The evidence that could bring down Blackwood was literally in my mouth, and I had nowhere to go. So I did the one thing they wouldn't expect. I laughed. The sound echoed across the marble lobby, drawing startled looks from employees passing through. Talia's smile faltered. Is something funny? She demanded. Absolutely, I replied, projecting my voice to reach the gathering crowd. I find it hilarious that you're accusing me of espionage on the same day your company's stock has been temporarily frozen by federal regulators. That wasn't entirely true, but the panic that flashed across Talia's face was worth the bluff. Several employees pulled out phones, presumably checking stock news. She's lying, Talia snapped. Take her to the security office. As 2 guards grabbed my arms, I continued, voice raised. Ask yourselves why an intern would be treated like a national security threat. What are they hiding from all of you? A murmur rippled through the growing audience. Employees were stopping, watching the scene unfold. I glimpsed concerned faces, people whispering to each other. This public spectacle was exactly what Blackwood would want to avoid. The press is already outside, I called out as they dragged me toward a side door. They're very interested in why Apex is facing another financial investigation. That part was true. Bernard had alerted several financial journalists about potential irregularities at Apex. They weren't here yet, but Talia didn't know that. Her composure cracked. Shut her up. The guards pulled me through the door into a windowless corridor, away from witnesses. My momentary advantage evaporated as the door closed behind us. Talia followed, her face tight with rage. You've made a serious mistake, she hissed. Not as serious as the one you made backing Camille, I replied. How much did she promise you, Talia? A vice presidency? Your own division? Something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty? Fear? I pressed on. She's going down for financial fraud. Don't you think Blackwood will sacrifice you to save himself? You know nothing, she whispered. But doubt had crept into her voice. The guards marched me to a small room with a metal table and 2 chairs, the security office. One guard remained inside with me while Talia and the others stepped out, presumably to call the police. Alone with the guard, I assessed my options. The flash drive felt uncomfortable now, making it difficult to speak normally. I needed to remove it, but more importantly, I needed to reconnect with my team. May I use the restroom? I asked the guard. He shook his head. Nice try. I've been in wet clothes for an hour, I pointed out. Basic human decency? He sighed, touching his radio. Subject requesting bathroom access. After a moment, Talia's voice crackled through. Fine. Escort her. 2 minutes. The bathroom was small but private. The moment the door closed, I removed the flash drive and quickly examined it. Still intact, thankfully. I tucked it into my still damp bra, then splashed water on my face. The mirror revealed a woman at the edge of defeat, plastered to her head, makeup running, clothes wrinkled from the impromptu shower. But in my eyes, I saw my grandmother's determination. 2 minutes up, the guard called, knocking sharply. As he escorted me back, I noticed something different. A subtle shift in the building's energy. People were moving quickly, some gathering in clusters, others on phones. Something had happened. Back in the security office, I waited alone again. Minutes stretched into half an hour. No police arrived. No one returned to question me. Just silence. Then the door opened, and a face I didn't expect appeared. "Bernard, your lawyer's here," the guard announced dispassionately. Bernard entered in a perfectly tailored suit, leather briefcase in hand. He looked nothing like the retired plant manager I knew, but rather every inch the high-powered attorney he was pretending to be. "I need to speak with my client alone," he said with practiced authority. The guard hesitated, then stepped out. The moment the door closed, Bernard whispered, "We don't have much time." The stock purchase went through. The injunction was lifted. Relief flooded through me. How? Blackwood withdrew his objection 15 minutes ago. No explanation. That made no sense. Why would Blackwood suddenly surrender? "Something's wrong," I murmured. "He wouldn't give up control without a fight." Bernard nodded grimly. "Isabel thinks he's planning something else. We need to move now, while we still have legal standing." "I have the evidence," I told him, indicating where I'd hidden the flash drive. "Complete records of the fraud. Good. A car is waiting at the loading dock. Security has been told you're being released to your lawyer's custody pending investigation." As we stood to leave, Bernard added, "There's something else. The coalition wants you to represent them at the emergency board meeting in 1 hour. As the new controlling interest, we can force immediate leadership changes." I hesitated. "Blackwood will be there." Yes. Along with Camille and the entire executive team. The thought of facing them again, this time without pretense, sent a wave of anxiety through me. But this was why I had infiltrated Apex in the first place. For my grandmother, for all the others who had lost everything. "I'll do it," I said. Bernard smiled tightly. "I thought you might say that." 45 minutes later, I stood outside the main boardroom. Transformed once again. Dry clothes, hairstyled, makeup fresh. I looked nothing like the desperate woman they'd dragged through the lobby, nor the meek intern they'd dismissed for months. Isabel met us there, tablet in hand. "The evidence is compelling," she confirmed after reviewing the files from the flash drive. "Multiple instances of fraud, all traceable to Camille's authorization codes. Will it be enough?" I asked. "More than enough for the authorities," Nina added, joining us. "But we don't need criminal charges to take control today. The stock purchase gives us that power already." Yet something still bothered me. Why did Blackwood withdraw his objection to the purchase? What is he planning? No one had an answer. The boardroom doors opened. Inside, the long table was surrounded by the existing board members, with Aidan Blackwood at the head. Camille sat to his right, Talia hovering behind them. All eyes turned to our group as we entered. "Miss Navarro," Blackwood acknowledged coolly, "I believe you have an announcement to make." His calm demeanor unsettled me. This was a man losing his company. He should be fighting, threatening, anything but this eerie composure. "The Worker Recovery Collective now holds 51% of Apex Industries shares," I stated, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "As representatives of the majority shareholder, we are exercising our right to restructure leadership, effective immediately." Murmurs circulated among the board members. None seemed surprised. Blackwood had clearly briefed them. "Before we proceed," Blackwood said, "I believe there's some confusion about the actual ownership status." He nodded to his lawyer, who distributed documents around the table. My stomach clenched as I received my copy. "As you can see," Blackwood continued, "the shares purchased by your coalition were Class B shares. Voting control remains with the Class A shares, which I still hold." I scanned the document, dread mounting. He was right. The stock structure had changed just days before our purchase, a change buried in legal filings we'd overlooked. Bernard paled beside me. "This isn't possible." "I assure you it is," Blackwood replied. "Corporate restructuring. Perfectly legal." The room spun around me. All our work, the risks, my grandmother's savings, worthless. We had majority ownership but no control. Camille's smile widened as realization dawned across our faces. Perhaps now we can discuss a reasonable sale of your shares back to the company, she suggested. At a discount, of course, given the circumstances. They had outplayed us, set a trap, and we had walked directly into it. I looked at my team, their devastated expressions reflecting my own feelings. Bernard's years of planning, Nina's financial expertise, Isabel's strategic brilliance, all defeated by a legal maneuver we never saw coming. We should discuss our options privately, Isabel said quietly, gathering her things. As we stood to leave, I caught Talia's smirk. She leaned toward Camille, whispering something that made them both laugh softly. The sound ignited something deep inside me. A refusal to surrender that had driven me from the beginning. Actually, I said, remaining in place, I'd like to present one more item for the board's consideration. Blackwood raised an eyebrow. This meeting is concluded, Ms. Navarro. I think the board will want to hear this, I insisted, nodding to Nina, who connected her tablet to the room's display system. This is inappropriate, Camille objected. What's inappropriate? I replied, my voice gaining strength. Is the systematic fraud that's been committed against this company and its shareholders, including the Worker Recovery Collective. The screen illuminated with financial records. Evidence from Blackwood's private server. These documents show the diversion of over $40 million from company accounts, I explained, advancing through the slides Nina had prepared. Funds that were supposed to support pension obligations were instead transferred through shell companies to private accounts. The board members leaned forward, examining the evidence with growing concern. This is absurd, Camille sputtered. These are fabricated. They came directly from your husband's private server, I cut in, complete with your digital authorization signatures. They came directly from your husband's private server. Blackwood's composed facade cracked slightly. You stole confidential documents during your unauthorized access this morning. 8. Actually, I said, meeting his gaze directly. I merely located what already belonged to the pensioners you defrauded. I turned to face the entire board. Whether or not we control voting shares, we remain majority owners, and as such, we have standing to bring a shareholder lawsuit against the current management for breach of fiduciary duty. The room fell silent as the implications settled. Additionally, I continued, we've forwarded these documents to the Securities and Exchange Commission, who I'm told are quite interested in speaking with all of you. Blackwood's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. His face had gone pale. What do you want? He finally asked, all pretense of control abandoned. I want exactly what I came for, I replied. Justice. And then, finally, I told them who I really was. My name is Ava Navarro. My grandmother worked at your Phoenix manufacturing plant for 37 years before you acquired it, stripped its assets, and terminated the pension fund. I stepped closer to the table, looking directly at Blackwood. She died waiting for medical treatments that pension would have covered. While you and your wife posted photos from your yacht in Monaco, recognition dawned in his eyes. Esther Navarro. Yes, one of hundreds whose lives you destroyed, who trusted the company they gave their lives to. I placed a folder on the table, my final move in a game that had begun 2 years ago. Inside is our proposal. Reinstatement of all pension obligations, a worker representation position on the board, and your resignations, both of you. Camille laughed incredulously. You can't possibly think. The alternative, I interrupted, is a very public fraud investigation. Prison time, personal financial ruin. I smiled thinly. Your choice. The next hour unfolded like a dream. Lawyers were called, documents signed. By the time we left the boardroom, Aiden and Camille Blackwood had tendered their resignations, effective immediately. The board had voted to accept our terms, not out of compassion, but self-preservation. As for Talia, she discovered too late that loyalty to the wrong people had consequences. Her termination was announced alongside the Blackwoods. 3 days later, I stood at my grandmother's grave, placing fresh flowers against her headstone. The morning news had been dominated by the management restructuring at Apex Industries, along with the announcement of reinstated pension benefits for former employees. We did it, Grandma, I whispered. the spring breeze carrying my words across the quiet cemetery. They thought I was just an intern. They had no idea who I really was. Bernard joined me, his weathered hand resting gently on my shoulder. Esther would be proud. I nodded, throat tight with emotion. What happens now? Now, he said, we rebuild. The right way. That evening, I stood before hundreds of former Apex employees in a community center that had once served as a union hall. Some arrived with oxygen tanks, others with canes. Many brought families, children, and grandchildren who had watched their elders struggle after losing everything. The pension funds will be restored within 90 days, I announced to tearful applause. Medical benefits reinstated retroactively, and a trust has been established to cover costs for families who lost loved ones waiting for care they were promised, like my grandmother. As the meeting concluded, an elderly woman approached me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. You're Esther's granddaughter, she said, taking my hand. She always said you were the smart one, that you'd do important things. I blinked back tears of my own. I just did what needed to be done. She squeezed my hand. No, dear. You did what no one else could do. You gave us back our dignity. Later that night, as I packed up my small apartment, ready to return to my real life after the long undercover mission, I found the faded photo of my grandmother I'd kept on my nightstand throughout the ordeal. Her smile, captured years before Blackwood entered our lives, radiated the strength that had inspired me. The intern they underestimated, I murmured to her image. That was their mistake. Some would call what I did revenge. I prefer to think of it as restoration, of justice, of dignity, of promises that should never have been broken. If you've made it this far in my story, I hope it reminds you that sometimes the people others underestimate are the ones who change everything. If my journey meant something to you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that matter. Your comments help me know what resonates with you, and I'd love to hear if you've ever been underestimated and how you proved them wrong. Until next time, remember, they never see you coming until it's too late.